Yes, we can start our roundtable. Hello and good afternoon for everyone. My name is Matilde de Souza, and I am glad that you are joining us with today. In fact, today is a holiday here in Brazil, and we are celebrating our Teachers' Day. Congratulations. Yeah. And I am honored to coordinate this roundtable on a topic that is not only timely, but also crucial. Water governance in countries of the global south in the face of climate change. And this topic affects all of us, is urgent, and demands our attention. First of all, I would like to introduce my colleagues, whom I thank in advance for accepting the invitation to participate in this roundtable. We have here the Professor Javier Valencia. He is a PhD in Environmental Law, University of Alicante, Spain, and a Master in Environmental Law and Sustainability, and Master in Sociology and Culture. He is an associate professor and a researcher at the University of Caldas, associate professor and researcher at the University of Manizales, Colombia. He is a member of CLACSO and the Water-led Global City Network. He has published many scientific articles and books, and chapter of books published in Colombia, Chile, Mexico, Spain, and Argentina. Thank you, Professor. And Professor Fabiana Pegoraro Soares, postdoctoral researcher at the Water Group of the Participatory Master Plan of the University of São Paulo, Brazil, Butantã campus. PhD in Human Geography at the same university and member of the Political Geography Group of the Department of Geography at the University of São Paulo. And me, I am Matilde de Souza, as I said. I have a PhD in Human Sciences from the Federal University of Minas Gerais, Brazil. I am a professor in the Department of International Relations at the Pontifical Catholic University of Minas Gerais. I am also a member of the Earth System Governance Project Research Fellows group and the Water-led Global City Network. Okay, my dear colleagues, if you want to connect with our audience, please feel free. Fabiana and Professor Valencia, please.
Just say hello for everyone and good evening or good afternoon or good morning. And I hope that we have an incredible panel. Thank you for coming and to talk with us.
Thank you. Professor Javier.
Hola, hola. Morning, buen día. Gracias, Matilde, por tu invitación, Fabiana, por estar aquí con nosotros. Tengo grandes amigos en Brasil, en Sao Paulo, y a ti por organizar esta mesa. Me disculpa no hablar en inglés, pero prefiero más bien hablarlo en español para poder que se me entienda un poco mejor. Muchas gracias.
Obrigada, professor. Thank you very much. So, our discussion topic is a very current and important subject. Water is essential for maintaining the environment and is vital in almost all ecological processes. It is responsible for the survival of all life forms, from plants and animals and human beings, and is a fundamental resource for biodiversity and ecosystem balance. I was considering whether it was necessary to talk about that in the middle of this audience, but I understood that remembering the fact that we can not live without water is never too much, including because I have seen the Rio Negro, which flows in the Amazonian region, almost dry. And remembered during the time I have lived in Manaus, Amazonas, it wasn't possible to see the other side of the same river and the drought that has happened in the region in the last months produce a conviction that it's always important to say how much we and all of the forms of life in this planet need water to survive. On this panel, we will focus on the critical issues of managing freshwater resources in the global south, where socio-economic inequalities and inadequate governance policies compound vulnerabilities to climate change. Key challenges highlighted include water scarcity, pollution, and the need for sustainable management. This is notably worse as climate change alters precipitation patterns and intensifies extreme weather events, such as droughts and floods. These events affect the availability and the quality of water, especially for the poorest populations, and they have essential impacts on water scarcity and the security, One Health, food production, energy generation, and the preservation of ecosystem. Current governance policies often fail to address these climate-related challenges adequately. And our water governance system is generally fragmented, particularly in transboundary river basins. And we emphasize adopting a more sustainable, participatory, equitable, and integrated approach to water resource management to overcome these issues. Given the sequence of our work today, I suggest a first round in which each of us make maybe 15 minutes presentation about the subject connected with our discussion topic. If you agree, we can start listening to Professor Javier, and after Professor Fabiana, and me for the last time. After our speech, which can propose questions, and I will suggest a dynamic after we speak. Okay? Professor Javier, por favor, pode começar sua apresentação. Muito obrigada por estar aqui conosco.
Ok, obrigado. Bueno, espero que estén viendo. Voy a tratar de demorarme el tiempo que me dieron. Inicialmente, bueno, esta es nuestra mesa. Preparado esta conversa sobre gobernanza ambiental, le he llamado gobernanza ambiental y participación ciudadana, conflictos por el agua y cambio climático en Colombia. Es un tema que he venido trabajando desde hace mucho tiempo con mi grupo de investigación, y especialmente en el marco de estas redes de investigación con las cuales he colaborado, desde Water Lago, así, desde el Observatorio, la Clínica Sociojurídica de interés público, interés público. Estos son los temas que voy a estar tratando: conflictos ambientales en los proyectos hidroeléctricos del Oriente de Caldas, 2001-2022, es decir, son 20 años, más de 20 años de seguimiento de estos casos. Los conflictos por el agua y desplazados por desarrollo, que es un tema fuerte que hemos visto que simplemente los proyectos hidroeléctricos en la era del cambio climático lo que están haciendo es más vulnerables a las comunidades y a los territorios. Derechos ambientales y el medio ambiente y participación en las decisiones, cómo es tan importante e indispensable que la comunidad participe, porque son ellos los que viven en su territorio y son ellos los que deben decir sobre su vida. Movilizaciones desde el derecho ambiental y obstáculos para la gobernanza compartida, para una gobernanza ambiental compartida inclusiva. Esta es, continúo hablando de la introducción. ¿Por qué? Pues porque para nosotros es muy importante territorios que hoy que se han tenido como con grandes fuentes hídricas, pues se han venido mermando, y los proyectos hidroeléctricos lo que hacen es poner en tensión precisamente tanto los pequeños como los grandes proyectos hidroeléctricos ponen en tensión y hacen más vulnerables a las comunidades. Por eso es que hablamos de conflictos ambientales por el agua y cambio climático, y es un tema de justicia ambiental, obviamente también, y también del tema de acceso a la justicia ambiental. Entonces, esto es como el tejido del grupo de investigación. Es un grupo de investigación grande en donde estamos no solo los abogados somos los poquitos, estamos ingenieros ambientales, antropólogas, sociólogos, biólogas. Quisiera tener una geógrafa, pero me ha encantado trabajar con geógrafos. Entonces, esta es como que la trama de investigación de los compañeros con que he trasegado este camino. Esta es la ubicación geográfica: Colombia, y Caldas está en la parte más o menos centro de Colombia. Este es el departamento de Caldas. Y estas son las amenazas. Hay 4 grandes proyectos hidroeléctricos en el oriente de Caldas, 2 grandes centrales y 2 trasvases. Y 2 trasvases es una zona en donde pues hay el potencial para el uso del agua para proyectos hidroeléctricas, usinas hidroeléctricas es muy grande, pero también hay 20 proyectos en trámite para pequeñas centrales hidroeléctricas, de las cuales ya se ha hecho una, pero hay 19. Las otras no se han hecho porque la comunidad ha estado en férrea oposición, precisamente porque ya se han secado alrededor de 30 fuentes hidroeléctricas por la construcción de túneles. Se han infiltrado las aguas superficiales. Entonces, pues estos son los conflictos por los proyectos hidroeléctricos. Aquí están la comunidad pues informándose sobre lo que puede pasar en sus territorios. Y esto es todo lo que hemos hecho desde la academia y desde la universidad y desde la academia con la comunidad, para que efectivamente, porque son personas muy humildes, son campesinos en su mayoría, donde llevan estos proyectos. Entonces ellos necesitan saber qué es lo que está pasando. Entonces, con todo mi grupo de investigación, lo que los apoyamos es con información. Los geólogos, los biólogos hacen los estudios del impacto ambiental y le entregan esa información a la comunidad para que pueda estar bien informada en sus decisiones. Aquí están, no solamente son los niños, todas las personas que están trabajando traba- eh, eh, al tanto de lo que está pasando. Son acciones no solamente jurídicas, hay movilización jurídica, movilización política y mucha movilización social que hemos estado viendo en estos conflictos, precisamente pues porque estos son los proyectos que se están haciendo en este territorio. Esa es la forma como las personas se han manifestado. Aquí es uno de los proyectos en donde por trasvasar las aguas de un río hacia una central hidroeléctrica, lo que hicieron fue que por la construcción del túnel se secaron 22 fuentes de agua. Y y esto lo que hizo fue que simplemente desplazó muchas personas de esa comunidad, las desplazó y no podemos, pues, fue un desplazamiento forzado, no fue voluntario, fue forzado porque ya no tuvieron las personas las fuentes económicas, sus tierras no quedaron aptas para los cultivos, pues porque no tenían agua. Entonces, este es uno de los casos más importantes. Entonces, un territorio que si bien ha tenido mucha agua, pero hoy estamos viendo las consecuencias de que dentro de las variables, en los estudios no tienen en cuenta la variable del cambio climático. ¿Por qué? Porque los periodos los periodos secos están siendo mucho más largos, o sea que los periodos de sequía son más largos. Entonces, aquí es el tema. Entonces, estamos de los desplazados ambientales por proyectos de desarrollo, lo que decía al principio, con comunidades que son más vulnerables precisamente por estos proyectos. Pero también estos son los grandes, ahorita las pequeñas. Uno pensaría que una pequeña central hidroeléctrica no tiene impactos, pero sí, tiene muchos impactos también. Las personas han sentido ese impacto y son pequeñas centrales hidroeléctricas que son promovidas también por los mismos gobiernos locales. Los mismos locales casi que par- son financiadores en parte de estos proyectos y eso ha puesto, pues obviamente, ha incrementado mucho la conflictividad entre sus territorios. Son las mismas personas. Mira, esta persona antes tenía agua y tenía agua de sus manantiales, ahorita le toca recoger aguas que se le están brindando por otros medios. Estos son un cuadro de todo lo que las personas hacen, se han manifestado para poder que sus proyectos no se hagan o si se van a hacer porque se tengan en cuenta todas estas variables. Entonces, esto forma parte de cuál es el estilo de gobernanza. El estilo de gobernanza que se tiene en estos territorios es que vemos que las empresas y los gobiernos locales y los gobiernos nacionales como que se unen para el proyecto y a la comunidad la dejan aparte. Es decir, entonces hay una desconfianza de la comunidad con relación no solamente a la empresa promotora del proyecto, sino también al mismo Estado y a los que hacen ese seguimiento. Entonces aquí donde se vuelca la confianza, especialmente en la academia. Es decir, la academia, ¿por qué? Porque nosotros somos, digamos, unos actores en donde lo que hacemos es entregar información y tener una perspectiva pues muy diferente a la empresa y en ese momento a estos gobiernos locales que promueven estos proyectos sin darle la mayor participación en la decisión, porque es que ese es el tema en la decisión que debe tener la decisión. Entonces, hemos encontrado muchos obstáculos para que sea una gobernanza real, una gobernanza real, porque pues el tema de la igualdad, pues no es lo mismo poner en la misma mesa un grupo de empresarios, de profesionales con un grupo de campesinos. Entonces ahí es donde vemos que, a ver, ahí no hay un diálogo horizontal. Entonces, eso es obviamente los obstáculos políticos, pues hay una capacidad de manejo político de las empresas y de los estados. Entonces las comunidades necesitan tener como que esas balanzas, pero los económicos también. Generalmente se hacen estos proyectos en territorios donde son muy pobres y se venden esos proyectos con la ilusión del desarrollo. Es con la ilusión, es decir, entonces la ilusión es con más, inflan los beneficios, pero los perjuicios los minimizan, cuando realmente nosotros como académicos lo que nos mire, este es el cuadro comparativo de beneficios versus perjuicios para que la comunidad también tenga en cuenta eso. Pues a mí no me encontraron el tema legal, pues muchos obstáculos para acceder a la justicia ambiental. Otra cosa muy importante, no se reconocen los saberes tradicionales de las comunidades que habitan sus territorios. Parece ser que solamente la ciencia, estamos entre científicos, como que la ciencia es la que se reconoce, es la que tiene la verdad, cuando realmente aquí nosotros decimos debe haber un diálogo de saberes. Es decir, hay que conocer lo que, lo que dice el territorio y la gente del territorio también lo que nosotros aportamos es un desarrollo de capacidades y competencias para que las personas participen de una mejor manera, pues porque realmente cuando hablamos de gobernanza es que haya una horizontalidad entre los actores. Pensamos que hay un insuficiente acceso a la información ambiental y obviamente pues los jueces tampoco apoyan mucho. ¿Cuáles son los aprendizajes? Los aprendizajes es que nosotros hemos mirado que el Estado social de Derecho, que es la Constitución, es un marco político jurídico muy interesante para la resolución de estos conflictos ambientales. También pensamos que debe haber una movilización jurídica, movilización social y movilización política. En estos casos hay que combinar que también que se deben de minimizar las barreras para el acceso a la justicia ambiental. Y estos son como los contrapesos contrapesos que van desde organizaciones académicas, organizaciones de la sociedad civil. Estos son los contrapesos que deben de haber frente a estos conflictos y para mejorar, obviamente, el tema de justicia ambiental y de la gobernanza, pues porque un tema clave en la gobernanza ambiental es la justicia ambiental. Para nosotros es clave el concepto de justicia ambiental en la gobernanza ambiental, especialmente, vuelvo y digo, en la era del cambio climático, cuando está teniendo esta variable tan importante en los proyectos. Bueno, estos son los apoyos que hemos dado desde la academia, pues precisamente para materializar esa justicia ambiental en la gobernanza. Muchas gracias. Espero haberme tomado no más del tiempo. Gracias por la atención.
Muito obrigada, professor Javier. Muitas gracias.
Obrigado.
I think we can listen Professor Fabiana right now because our time is fine.
Sure, I'll share my screen. So thank you. I'll talk about transboundary water governance and climate change in emerging countries. It's a co-work between me and Professor Dr. Wagner Costa Ribeiro. He's full professor at University of São Paulo, and me, Dr. Fabiana Pegoraro Soares. I'm postdoctoral research at University of São Paulo. And this work is similar to the Professor Javier. We are talking about the same questions. And we'll follow 3 points, 2 main points. The first one, climate change and water, the challenges. The second one, emerging countries, climate change and water. And finally, transboundary water, it's necessary to share. We have to remember that climate change, and we have an urgent question about climate change and changes in atmospheric dynamics. And it includes the changes in evapotranspiration, in circulation and characteristics of air masses, in the sea currents. And now we have scenes like this picture that is Rio Negro or Black River, as Professor Matilde told in her speech. And we can see the extreme events, and 2 points in extreme events, drought and heavy rains. And so this picture, we have a huge drought in Amazon basins, river, and it's sad to see this picture. And this requires new relationships between society and water. In urban areas, we need a review of water supply systems, mainly to avoid water loss, waste, and leaks, and also to improve the use of rainwater. In agriculture, we see tensions over water use. We have the case of Brazil and Uruguay for rice production, for example. Rice is a culture that demands a lot of water, and we have tensions in transboundary waters, rivers, between Brazil and Uruguay. This picture are comparative images from NASA of the Rio Grande do Sul flood in Brazil, Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil flood in May to May this year. And the image above, the flood that was huge, intense, and a lot of losses. For emerging countries in climate change and water, we had to think about this case of emerging countries, the low adaptive capacity and lack of research to promote prevention, mitigation, adaptation, and resiliation actions. That we have 4 points for climate change, and the actions of prevention, mitigation, adaptation, and resilience actions are the 4 points for climate change. In emerging countries, we have a high number of vulnerable population, both without access to water and sewage collection and treatment, and subject to risk areas like flooding or landslides. This picture reminds us that in Indonesia, 70% of households access contaminated water due to lack of sewage treatment in 2022. So we have to remember that dispute over water use is unequal. The productive sector prevails, especially in agriculture. And access to water is a factor of a social tension, as Professor Javier said. And so we can ask, who has guaranteed access to water? Despite being a human right, is it for everyone? So we have to remember also that water is part of 2030 agenda, and we have a goal on the Sustainable Development Goals for water, clean water, and sanitation. And transboundary water has a SDG target, the SDG target 6.5, that calls for the implementation of integrated water resources management at all levels, including through transboundary water cooperation as appropriate by 2030. So we can see some data from UNESCO report about SDGs, that this target 6.5 is far from being reached. This implementation of water resource management is limited or moderated in the most of countries that we have data. UNESCO data also shows us that we have an estimated 313 rivers and lakes, and 468 aquifers are shared by 2 or more countries. So we have a lot of transboundary water in our planet. And we have the increasing water demand that puts pressure on the use of shallow water, surface, or underground water. And I think that's important to say that when we talk about water demands, we are not talking about population increasing. It's not a Malthusian speech. For example, studies about the cooling towers of data centers that use water for cooling in it's increasingly related to AI expansion. This study say that ChatGPT-3 consumes about half a liter of water for each 10 responses. So, for each 10 questions on ChatGPT, we have a loss of half a liter of water. So the AI has a huge footprint on water issues. And that is the kind of demand that we are talking about. It's necessary to share. The cooperation agreements between countries alleviates tensions, but does not eliminate conflicts. And we have a question of asymmetric cooperation between countries. An example here that we are bringing is Brazil and Paraguay on the Paraná River for the use of water for energy generation by Itaipu Binational. That's the picture of the dam of Itaipu Binational. And Brazil and Paraguay, and there are approximately 60 bilateral documents involving Brazil and Paraguay, some of which were signed during the empire, the Brazilian Empire, so a long time ago. In most of them, Argentina was isolated. We had the Itaipu Treaty in 1973, when Brazil and Paraguay were partners in the hydroelectric power generation project. And this treaty, they say that they were supposed to consume all the energy generated. But Brazil consumes much more energy than Paraguay. And Brazil also leads the discussion on the resale price of Paraguayan surplus energy and the value of the debt that Paraguay incurred with the construction of the dam. In agreement between Brazil and Paraguay, this agreement has just been revised in this year and established new guidelines that should alleviate tensions for the coming years. But we can see that Brazil still has the hegemony on, say, this agreement, how it will be, and the pricing, wherever. Now, we can see this hegemony of Brazil. For conclusions, transboundary water cooperation becomes more urgent in the face of climate change. It's necessary to achieve transboundary water governance systems in which there is great equity among stakeholders, as Professor Javier said. And it's necessary to ensure that emerging countries have the capacity to promote actions for prevention, mitigation, adaptation, and resilience in the face of climate change. That's my contribution, and I'm open to questions. Thank you for all.
Thank you very much, Fabiana. I will thank you, both of you, Professor Javier and Fabiana, for the contributions. And I hope during our questions we can develop a little more of our subject, because it's very interesting and in some way it converges. So it could be interesting that we can exchange some ideas. I will talk. I hope I will stay in my time. I will share my screen with you. Just a moment. Yeah. Okay. Just a moment, please. Could you see my screen? Okay. So I will talk a little about water governance in the Amazon River Basin in the face of climate change challenges. And in fact, we are talking at the same points, considering different cases. And so the Amazon River is the largest on the world, covering some 7 million square kilometers in 9 South American countries. It's a home to around 30 million people, including almost 2 million indigenous people from around I think it's almost 400 ethnic groups and indigenous groups. The Amazon Basin plays a fundamental role in the global water cycle, and it is also home to the largest rainforest until now on the planet. It supplies around 20% of fresh water that flows into the oceans, world oceans, and its biodiversity is extraordinary, and its preservation is dependent on water bodies. The forest's evapotranspiration, as Fabiana said, is dependent on water bodies, and which forms the so-called flying rivers. And these flying rivers is essential for rainfall throughout South America. And this basin faces increasing environmental pressures, mainly due to deforestation and unsustainable mining activities that cause various kinds of damage to the region, compromise the living conditions of local communities, and affect the entire Amazon ecosystem. So the Amazon basin is currently facing a completely alarming scenario due to the unprecedented environmental crisis that threatens water resources, biodiversity, and the populations that depend on the forests and its rivers. I use the same picture that Fabiana showed us. It's horrible because I saw this river completely full of water. And the drought has been more frequent and more intense in recent years. And it was said that the drought of 2023 would have been the most severe. However, drought is even more serious this year, and some of the most important rivers in the entire basin, such as the Negro and the Madeira rivers, have seen a drastic decrease in water levels, impact river transportation. This is the main means of moving people and transporting goods to various parts of the Amazon. In addition to the scarcity of water has affected the agriculture, fishing, and the supply of drinking water to local communities, and has increased the risk of forest fires, making all of this making the environmental degradation of the region even more serious. Even though these changes in the rainfall patterns are a consequence of the phenomena such as El Niño, they are widely attributed to climate change, altering the Amazon's hydrological cycle. Deforestation has increased dramatically in recent decades too, mainly due to the expansion of agriculture, mining activities, and large infrastructure projects. Estimates indicate that more than 20% of the Amazon rainforest has already been cleared, and the previously protected areas are gradually being degraded. These pictures on the left shows deforestation in the Pan-Amazonia area in 2020. And the image on the right shows deforestation in the Brasilia territory, just showing the so-called arc of fire, where the frontier of the agriculture. Agriculture is occupying territory and territory invading the Amazon area. This process directly affects the integrity of the region, water resources, and these conditions affect biodiversity and compromise the Amazon's ability to act as a carbon sink. One of the most worrying effects of climate change in the Amazon is the possible environmental tipping point. Scientists warn that if deforestation and climate change continue to progress and the current rate, the Amazon could reach a point where it will no longer be able to sustain its ecological process, transforming from a rainforest into a savanna. This change would devastate the region's people, the global climate, and biodiversity. And this condition increases social inequalities in the region, with the most vulnerable population being the first to feel the effects of droughts and environment degradation, difficulty accessing drinking water and food, and lack of adequate infrastructure to deal with extreme weather events. So, given this, there is no doubt about the urgency of tackling the challenges posed by proper water governance in the region. This governance involves, Javier said a little, and Fabiana said too, an efficient and equitable management of water resources, ensuring that the water use meets human and ecological needs without compromising future generations. In the Amazon, this governance needs to deal with challenges such as managing transboundary rivers, joint and coordinated political actions between the region's countries, and incorporating principles of climate justice and social equity. One of the main challenges is to ensure that the countries that share the basin can work in a coordinated way to preserve and sustainably use water resources. The fragmentation of national policies and the absence of a binding mechanism for implementing regional agreements are important barrier to efficient governance. In addition, with the growing pressure to expand economic activities such as farming and mining, often conflicts with actions to preserve the environment. The Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization, ACTO, can play an important role in this case. So this treaty was signed in 1978 and started to work, in fact, in 2002. And this treaty involved all the countries in the region except the French Guiana. It aims to promote the harmonious development of the Amazon, guarantee the preservation of the region's natural resources, and ensure the well-being of local population by fostering cooperation between countries in the basin, as I said. It was innovative in proposing a joint approach to tackling sustainability challenges in a transnational area of great ecological relevance. However, the treaty did not create an institutional structure to implement these guidelines, and at first, cooperation actions depended on individual initiatives. Countries want to cooperate, they could do, but there wasn't any structure for that. The creation of the ACTO in 1995 was intended to solve this problem. And the ACTO has made some initiatives, such as implementing the program of strategic actions for the integrated management of water resources in the basin and other projects. The Global Environmental Facility funds this project involving the United Nations Environment Program too. And the proposal is for the Amazon country to move towards two sustainable development goals. Even considering this, the integrated governance of the Amazon basin is still far from reality. ACTO is an organization that is very dependent on the political will of the government of the days. And changes in government alter political priorities. There is a lack of financial and technical resources, and in general, there is not enough dialogue between development and environmental policies. Still, the Amazon region has been seen as a frontier for agricultural expansion, as I said, and mineral exploitation continues to expand, including in indigenous areas. We also have the construction by hydroelectric plants whose environmental impacts are enormous, as Professor Javier explored very well in his speech. Furthermore, there doesn't exist any regional institutional structure responsible for the integrated management of water resources, and the water management policies of each country do not necessarily converge in terms of their principles, priorities, and structures. Despite the creation of the Amazon network of water authorities in 2023, last year, this network is linked to ACTO, is very recent, and probably still needs to develop necessary institutional structures to allow for more and effective actions toward the governance of the basin's water. Thus, although ACTO promotes cooperation between members countries, coordination and harmonization of environmental and water management policies between countries, is necessary to implement integrated and effective governance in the Amazon basin. In addition, ACTO decisions are not binding, and many Amazon countries face economic pressure to expand activities that directly impact the environment, engaging local population historically excluded from regional decision making is also tricky. So I am concluding. Just remember something, that in precedent environmental crisis that the Amazon basin is currently facing with severe droughts, deforestation, and fires at an increasing rate, jeopardizes local populations, water resources, and biodiversity. And climate change intensifies these problems, altering rainfall patterns and increasing the region's vulnerability. Given this scenario, integrated governance of the basins water is essential, requiring coordination between the countries that share these resources. The ACTO plays a key role in promoting a joint approach to the sustainable management of water resources, although it faces significant challenges, and we know that. The Amazon countries have some options to avoid the point of no return, which has devastating consequences for the Amazon people, climate, and biodiversity. One challenge facing the Amazon countries is to find the necessary political means to strengthen regional cooperation and adopt common policies for the promising future of all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I will stop share my screen and return. Okay, so we can continue and present our questions to each other. I suggest 2 rounds. I think it's possible to do because I think we have enough time and I want to stay speaking a lot. And we can start with Fabiana. You could present a question to Javier, and Javier can give me a question, and I will present you, Fabiana, a question. We can start, please.
Thank you, Professor Matilde, Professor Javier, for your presentation and a very important subject and urgent subject to be discussed and to put in action, mainly. And so my question to Professor Javier, I'll do in English and in Portuguese. I don't know if Professor what he prefers. And we all here are talking about the governance and the difficult to implement an effective governance because mainly this unequal power that we have in the actors. So, Professor, what are the main challenges, in your opinion? What are the main challenges to implement these equitable and efficient governance systems that we all want and nobody can do it? So, em português, professor, todos nós sonhamos, né, sonho, ter um sistema de governança eficiente para as águas, principalmente, e não só para as águas. E a gente vê essas desigualdades, muito desigual, essas relações de poder. Então, na sua opinião, quais são os principais desafios para a implementação de um sistema de governança eficiente e mais igualitário, que os atores tenham um poder mais distribuído? Obrigada. We are not hearing you in this question.
Obrigado, Fabiana. Gracias por tenerme paciencia y hacer las preguntas en inglés y en portugués. A ver, una de los desafíos es que se le dé la palabra y la decisión a las comunidades que habitan en los territorios, porque la experiencia que tenemos es esa. Cuando la profesora Matilde hablaba de cooperación, generalmente se habla de cooperaciones entre estados, no entre pueblos. Yo creo que aquí es clave la cooperación entre los pueblos, no tanto entre los estados. Entonces aquí también yo creo que el desafío es que cómo vamos a involucrar las comunidades que habitan en los territorios, porque generalmente las decisiones se toman desde los escritorios en los estados centrales, no desde esos territorios. Y realmente hay países como Colombia que estamos ya recibiendo los impactos del cambio climático con más fuerza, pero con mucha más fuerza, siendo un país que poco gases efectos de invernadero aporta para el calentamiento. Entonces yo creo que el desafío es eso, cómo subir, cómo cambiar esa curva que es muy grande, estirarla para que sea un poco más horizontal, porque la curva de la desigualdad es grande, yo lo mostré, y lo que hacemos los académicos y las ONGs a veces es tratar de equilibrar esa balanza, porque es que además, siempre, por lo menos nosotros aquí como académicos, nosotros también somos comunidad. Los académicos nos tenemos que involucrar más con las personas para poder apoyar, no es apoyarlos, sino apoyarnos. Yo creo que es el gran desafío, pues porque también lo que yo veo es que los conflictos se van a incrementar, no solamente entre gobierno-estado, entre gobierno-comunidad, empresa-comunidad, sino también entre Estado-Estado. Es decir, las ponencias de ustedes dos, tanto la de Matilde, la profesora Matilda como la de la profesora Fabiana, son, pero contundentes, porque si bien el hilo es la gobernanza, pero de las tres conferencias, ahí es que creo que es cooperación, comunicación entre los pobladores, las comunidades también. Ese es el desafío. ¿Y alguna otra pregunta?
In our dynamic, we suggested, Professor, you can make a question for me.
Sí, espero que me entiendas bien. La pregunta es, si bien tú propones un escenario de cooperación y anotas muy bien el tratado transamazónico, ¿tú cómo ves, digamos, la, el futuro de la cooperación? Porque yo veo que hasta el momento la cooperación no ha sido suficiente, más bien ha sido un fracaso. ¿Cómo es el futuro? Y también si tú ves un futuro de conflictividad, haciendo una parodia con lo que pasó en Bolivia, las guerras por el agua. Porque es que en los escenarios que las dos profesoras, Fabiana y Matilde, presentan tanto en las cuencas transfronterizas, y el Amazonas es una cuenca totalmente transfronteriza. Si en algún futuro vamos a ver algún posible conflicto tan fuerte como ya está pasando en otras partes del mundo. ¿Ustedes cómo lo ven? Porque es un escenario que hay que pensar.
Ok, professor, muito obrigada pela pergunta. I don't know if I answer you in English or in Portuguese, but considering the audience, I think it's better to answer in English. I'm sorry. I, I, I hope you can follow, and I know you can do that. Okay, I think until now we have some moments that cooperation is more profound, and sometimes it doesn't, just doesn't work. And it depends of the interests of the governments, the government. And depending on the government, we have more activities, more actions, and depending on the government, everything is gone. So I think we have some experiences before, and some moments that we can stay more together and agreed more scenarios and politics and policies. And my hope is that people in the region stayed to be more close among them. We can see it including the indigenous people, but we cannot see it according to the citizen in general, no indigenous people. And I hope in the process, in the time during the experiences, our government, our state can establish more convergent policies and establish some structures that can provide more conditions to govern the water better than we are doing right now. I hope so. And about conflicts, I hope we can solve the conflicts without escalating. I hope our governments are in the middle of a relationship during a long time, and I hope we can solve possible conflicts without escalating. and talking and using water diplomacy and other kind of diplomacies to solve our conflicts. I hope that. I believe that. Thank you, Professor. So my question
Obrigado.
for... Muito obrigada. Muito obrigada pela pergunta. I'm sorry. My question to Fabiana, and Fabiana, one of the points of your presentation, your speech, was related to transboundary cooperation. We can return in this point that Professor started to talk about, and implementing SDG goals, just the 6.5. How can political and economic challenges between neighboring countries affect the implementation of effective cooperation agreements? That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Matilde, for your question. There are two main points on this issue. The first one, as already mentioned here, is the asymmetry in power relations between the countries. In the case of transboundary waters, it's very common to observe the hegemony of one country over others in the definition of agreements. We have a lot of examples. As I said, the Itaipu Treaty between Brazil and Paraguay. But we have others, like the Mahakali Treaty between India and Nepal, the treaties on Jordan River that everybody knows, the relations between Syria and Turkey, for example, the conflicts in Nile Basin, and many others that we can show here. Researchers on the subject often use the term hydrohegemony, which is based on 4 pillars: geography, because of the location of the country on the river basin, mouth or headwaters, upstream or downstream. The material and economic strength, the bargaining power, and additional power. As a second point, linked mainly to emerging countries and also to the least developed countries, it's a political instability, as you mentioned it in your answer. Both conflict and cooperation on water are political issues. Even with agreements and treaties, many conflicts over distribution, management, and use persist. So it's a not easy question. That's the challenge. I hope I could answer your question, and more again, thank you for your question.
Thank you, Fabiana. You answered and pose another kind of things that we can discuss and discuss and discuss. Okay. We can do a next round, and Professor Javier, professor, você poderia sugerir uma pergunta para Fabiana?
Sí,
Please.
sí, ok, gracias. Para Fabiana, una pregunta es, si bien un escenario de, digamos, de decisiones, de discusiones, la diplomacia, los acuerdos, ¿tú cómo ves el escenario de los tribunales internacionales de justicia para resolver los conflictos en las cuencas, en los ríos transfronterizos? Yo conozco algunos antecedentes, pero lo que veo es que se están incrementando más los conflictos que llegan a esos tribunales. ¿Tú cómo ves ese escenario?
Thank you, Professor, for your question. like I said, this asymmetric power is a huge problem on the international agreements, and we can see it very well in the case of transboundary waters. And some of the discussions, they are beyond the water issues or the water subject. And it seems to me that the international courts, they are not, the water is not a main point in the agreements, that as we can see it every day. Everybody is worrying about the economy, is worrying about the war, is worrying about the migration, and nobody says nothing about water. And I think that if it's not being a main point, the environmental issues in general, while it's not being a main point on discussions of humanity, we we don't know about the future. The climate change, they are here, they are urgent, and we are talking about this too much for a long time, and we are doing very less, and it's a little actions, and the actions are urgent, and people don't see they don't see this urgent. It's so sad to talk about it. I don't know if I answered your question, but I'm so desolated about these questions that thank you for your question.
Obrigado, Fabiana.
Okay, Fabiana, your turn. You can put a question for me or suggest a question, please.
Professor Matilde, my question for you is, Brazil has been experiencing an intense expansion of agribusiness towards the Amazon, as you said, so-called this deforestation arc or burning arc. This is a very unequal power struggle, because one of side we have the giants with a representative power in the government, and in the other we have researchers, environmentalists, small farmers, the indigenous peoples, and the neighboring countries, as Colombia, for example. In your point of view, what are the ways to contain this conflict?
Well, I think there is no easy solution. And if some solution exists, it's very complex, because conflict lies in a comprehensive cross-sectoral strategy. Okay. I think one important aspect is the reinforcement of the environmental laws. Of course, it's not enough, but it's important, such as the forest code with more rigorous enforcement and the severe penalties for illegal deforestation. Yeah? I know it's not enough, but simultaneously we can foster a more sustainable future by providing economic incentives for eco-friendly practices, or promoting low-impact agriculture and sustainable forest management. It cannot solve all the problems, but can help some part of this problem. I think another critical and unavoidable path is the expansion of land regularization. We need to do that. And support small farms, offering them access to accredited technology and training to adopt sustainable practices. And this can reduce some pressure by new areas of cultivation and mitigate conflict. Maybe regional diplomacy can also play a relevant role. with the strengthening of cooperation between Brazil and the other Amazonian countries. And maybe it could create coordinated preservation policies. Lastly, I think we must empower civil society, as Professor Javier said, and both at home and abroad, and to actively engage in environmental monitoring and the assessment of government and corporate actions. In my opinion, the country, I am just talking about Brazil, we must create a safe environment for those who champion environmental causes, because sometimes they are in danger, real in danger. And public pressure can be a decisive force in ensure that political decisions align our environmental preservation and sustainable development goals. We are people of goodwill, I think. That's it. So I will suggest a question for Professor Javier. I will talk in português and after I will talk in English. So, considerando a importância da participação cidadã, professor, na governança ambiental e as alternativas para superar conflitos sobre as águas, né? O senhor mostrou várias situações de conflito na Colômbia, né? Do seu ponto de vista, e também levando em conta a política da Colômbia, né? E a necessidade também de incluir a população no processo de tomada de decisão sobre a política de águas, né? Quais as estratégias que o senhor acha que são possíveis para melhor promover essa inclusão no caso da Colômbia? And I will just talk in English a moment, please. Considering the importance of citizen participation in environmental governance and the alternative to overcome conflicts about the waters from their point of view, your point of view, and considering the country's political reality and the need to include the population in the decision-making process regarding water policy, what are the possible strategies to better promote this including in the case of Colombia? Thank you in advance, Professor.
Gracias, obrigado, profesora Matilde, por la pregunta. Hoy tenemos una herramienta muy importante. Hace 3 semanas fue aprobado y ratificado el Acuerdo de Escazú, sobre democracia ambiental para América Latina y el Caribe. Por ejemplo, Brasil todavía no lo ha ratificado. Nosotros vemos que esa es una herramienta muy importante para que la comunidad, para que las personas que habitan los territorios tengan muy buen acceso a la información ambiental. No solamente eso, sino también que en este acuerdo se obliga al Estado, a toda la parte estatal, a que genere y entregue información sobre el medio ambiente. También el acuerdo de Escazú propone amplía los escenarios de participación de la comunidad en las decisiones y también lo que genera es un mejor ambiente para que el mismo Estado genere otro tipo de gobernanza, porque es que el tema es que genere otro tipo de gobernanza para que vean que es muy importante la participación de las personas. Y otro tema clave es el acceso a la justicia ambiental, es decir, que todas las personas puedan acceder de una manera más fácil a las decisiones en materia ambiental, no solamente ante los tribunales, sino también ante las autoridades administrativas. Considero que es una estrategia muy importante para América Latina y el Caribe. Tuve la oportunidad hace 10 años de participar, desde la academia, de participar en la Comisión Negociadora de Colombia, y nosotros siempre hemos apoyado desde la academia el Acuerdo de Escazú. porque yo creo que esa es una herramienta y es lo que sugerimos los países que ya la firmaron, pero que no lo han ratificado, que, que la población presione para que efectivamente se acuerde, para que ratifique ese acuerdo de Escazú, que es muy importante para la democracia ambiental. Y hay un punto clave también en el acuerdo de Escazú, es también la protección de los líderes ambientalistas, porque vemos que en América Latina no es un lugar muy seguro para hacer activismo ambiental. Entonces también ese tema es clave. Además, los países firmantes se comprometen a mejorar todos estos los accesos a la información, a la participación de justicia ambiental en sus países. Entonces yo creo que ese es el instrumento que es muy importante para nuestra región.
Okay, Professor, thank you very much for your answer. And it's a very demanding for us in our country, our people. And we have a lot of challenges in face of us. In the future, we need to be better. I hope so. Okay, I will talk to you that we have one question here in the box, and some person asked us, today the Amazon is on fire. What can the countries of the Amazon basin do against public policies such as the Bolivian ones, which rather encourage burning and cannot take charge at the institutional level? Somebody want to talk about that? Professor Fabiana? Professor Javier?
Maybe I can start to talk about it, and after you can complement me. As I said, we have in Latin America political instability. One day, the country has a government that is has an environmental speech, and another year you have a government that wants to put fire in everything, and it's a complex situation. Even in Brazil, we have in the agriculture, the sectors in agribusiness that even use the discourse of sustainable agriculture. We have this in Brazil. And nowadays, this speech about sustainable agriculture is okay in Brazil this year. Tomorrow, I don't know. But in practice, we see that it's not implemented. It does not exist. Burning, for example, continues to be a common practice. So I cannot see agreements between the American Latin countries in just one way, in just the same speech, because we have this instability that concerns. Maybe you can complement professors.
Javier, do you want to?
Gracias. Es una pregunta muy incitadora. Muy incitadora. ¿Por qué? Porque cada país de la cuenca de la Amazonia tiene sus propios problemas. La amenaza que tenemos en Colombia es la amenaza de la deforestación ilegal. Hoy la deforestación ilegal en la Amazonía es fortalecida por los grupos armados ilegales. Son unos actores que presionan mucho y en este sector, es decir, que presiona hasta la misma comunidad para que lo haga. O sea que entonces, de un tema con el cual en Colombia hemos tenido que luchar, es decir, es otro otra variable más con la cual no tienen que luchar en los otros países de la cuenca. Me aterró ver las fotos que mostró Matilde del Río Negro. Pues en este momento, en Leticia, que es la ciudad de la Amazonía colombiana, el río Amazonas está también en esas mismas condiciones. Entonces, con eso es con lo que tenemos que luchar. Y por eso es que si bien se ha revertido un poco la deforestación, todavía se mantiene, pero para nosotros aquí, Fabián ha hablado de los agronegocios, ¿no? Aquí no son los agronegocios. Aquí el tema de la deforestación es para ganadería, pero está bien promovido es por los grupos ilícitos. Dicho, hasta los grupos ilícitos han presionado al gobierno en la negociación. Es decir, si tú no negocias conmigo, seguimos deforestando más y con más intensidad. Entonces, de verdad que es una pregunta muy incitadora para nosotros en Colombia, porque sí es un problema grave, grave el de la deforestación en la cuenca del Amazonas. Obrigado.
Thank you, Fabiana. Thank you, Javier. Your words is my words too, because when I am looking for the fire, I am completely terrified because it's a cultural aspect, but we needed to overcome this situation. And I don't know, but maybe tomorrow is too late. We need to do something right now and try to converge our actions to stop this kind of situation that we are living now. I was talking before our meeting started, our roundtable started, I was talking that I lived in Belo Horizonte, and we passed for 6 months without rain, and we was in the middle of the smoke. Fire in entirely the area that I am living. So we need to stop that. I don't have any answer how we can face this situation. The government started to do something more objectively, but I think it's not enough until now, because we need just to stop. And it's simple like that. I don't know how, but it's necessary to do that. So our time is over. I'm sorry. Our conversation was very interesting, and it have had very interesting talks. And I believe that we had an excellent dialogue. Although time is not enough for a more amply debate, I'm sorry. But it was a very nice experience. I think you like to, I hope so. And we could create an opportunity for great interaction and collaboration among us if you want. I am very grateful to you, Fabiana, and to you, Javier. I hope we can repeat this moment in other situations. I would like to thanks for the event organizers. Russia was supporting us. As the System Governance Project staff and the Project Hub colleagues in Brasilia. And if you want to say goodbye, please feel free. I am very, very thankful.
I'd just like to thank, and I really think that it's an important conversation, and I hope that we can meet in another occasion. Thank you so much, and for everyone that's watching us, thank you so much.
Gracias por esta interesante conversación en inglés, un poco en portugués y otro poco en español. Gracias a ustedes por comprender, por la comprensión, pero verdad que fue muy, muy enriquecedora la conversación. Esperamos vernos en una próxima ocasión.
Muito obrigada, professor Javier. Obrigada, Fabiana. Muito obrigada a todo mundo que participou. Thank you, all of us. And thank you very much who stayed with us in this journey. Bye-bye.